Hello there, Magic players. Barry White here from MagicUntapped.com and the Magic Untapped YouTube page. Joining me is Jason Egginton, one of the driving forces and founders of Magic the Gathering's growing in popularity casual format known as Oathbreaker. Now, Jason, you guys, the Oathbreaker team, you were down in Las Vegas about what, 3 weeks, a month ago.
Yep.
How did that go down there? How was the reception for Oathbreaker during that convention and event?
Yeah, so surprisingly well. We didn't know what to expect. We all got our booster shots working at Mayo Clinic, although I'm not representing Mayo Clinic today. Several of us were in the right situation to thankfully get our flu shot and our booster shot well in advance of the event. And we were a little bit skeptical, as a lot of people were, is this the right thing to do? Can this be done safely? So that not everybody feels safe, but it's actually safe. And so we were very pleased with the way Channel Fireball and the vendors and the organizers did the best they could. We felt as good safety-wise for it being the first event back. And then there was kind of like a pent-up demand in general, which I think benefited everyone, from the vendors to the organizers to the players looking for games, including Oathbreaker. So we had a lot of Oathbreaker action and some other action at our nonprofits booth, which was Magic Kids.
How was the reception? I know Oathbreaker does not, let's say, have the market share that EDH has,
Right.
but how was the reception? People getting reintroduced to it or getting a chance to play it for the first time?
Yeah, I think, coming out of a pandemic, we paused. Kind of what we felt was a responsible thing to do is just take a breath. Us working in healthcare, we were plenty busy enough during a pandemic with COVID related tasks to not actively promote a format and push people into playing a lot of paper, because we didn't think that was the right thing to do. But rest assured, we kept going. The rules committee, of which I'm not a part, and that's intentional, to have sort of a separation, a healthy separation there. But the rules committee kept going and had their regular meetings, tested as they could when appropriate. Oathbreaker format is on Spell Table, which helps tremendously, testing cards. At the same time, we're striking a balance, right? Like, we want to grow a format that we really feel has a place. Now, is it a variant or is it a format? That's maybe a topic of our next conversation. But rest assured that people cared about it. People let us know that they were playing it around the globe. We're surprised at how many people outside of the United States played Oathbreaker, not because that's any less legitimate, but because we didn't know the reach was so extensive and embedded in places like Brazil, Germany, the UK, and Australia, and some other places that we've really heard a lot of feedback from.
Well, the miracle of the internet, I suppose, it really kind of gets
Right?
the word out.
Yeah.
Now, as 2021 is coming to a close, though, where do you see Oathbreaker right now in terms of popularity and support and what have you?
Yeah, that's a really timely and interesting question. Not just because you and I have been talking about it, but a member of the rules committee reached out to me today. He's like, I'm really growing weary of some of the discourse that I'm encountering on the internet. And again, that's nothing new to the internet or Magic specifically on the internet, but he was particularly concerned with the discourse around rule zero, around what competitive versus casual means, and this thing that kind of goes around and around versus like, how tuned and competitive is your deck? Well, of course, it's like asking how spicy a hot sauce is, or how much you're in pain, after a foot surgery. It's somewhat subjective, right? And so we have this ongoing issue of what the Commander Rules Committee, which is the giant, right, is inspired us to play multiplayer Magic, and really continually reassessing rule zero and what multiplayer Magic is as a process, not a moment. So rather than deciding what rule zero and what multiplayer kitchen table casual Magic means to us, and having a final decision for each of us personally what that means, having a discourse and having a process where we can constructively talk, at least as a play group. Maybe we can't always get along on Twitter or be able to summarize our feelings in 140 characters, but we can talk to the people we actually know, and the people we actually play Magic with. And that's always evolving. Of course, you make friends on Spell Table. Of course, you can make friends on social media platforms. But the people that as we're returning safely to paper magic, having those conversations openly. The rules committee member that reached out to me said, for example, stacks. There's no strategy that doesn't have a criticism attached to it. So like if I play a very controlling stacks build, then we would need to talk about that ahead of time so that people feel like they can respond or have answers, or at least consider sort of the power level. And so this idea about communicating ahead of time is of course nothing new, but it might bear repeating. It might be up to us, Barry, Jason, Zach, others on the rules committee, to talk about how Oathbreaker might contribute positively to maybe somewhat of a return or a rewind to the spirit of kitchen table or casual magic. And again, you get into these bumpy waters about, well, you're criticizing people for wanting to play optimal cards or optimal decks, and that's not it. It's about the intent of the player and the intent of the play group. And our intent as a nonprofit is to get more people into Magic the Gathering, particularly for young adults, because we feel like it has a place in the co-curricular process of learning. And so we have this delicate balance of like a funny, wacky, wonderful nonprofit social club and a educational services charity called Magic Kids, that we want Oathbreaker to serve both of those things. We want Oathbreaker to serve a lot of different things that maybe Commander doesn't. The reason that we modified Commander until we got to the point where we got to Oathbreaker is because we just couldn't finish a game of Commander, no matter how tuned or untuned they were. We just couldn't finish a Commander game during lunch. So we feel it's a lunchtime format, as a casual format, but those are loaded terms, and we appreciate that.
What is it like working with the rules committee? And in terms of Oathbreaker, do you work with Wizards at all, or as well, or is it just two separate?
I will say we've had employees of Wizards of the Coast reach out, and they have been very open about their fandom of Oathbreaker and how they are planting the seeds. Not anything devious, just like I play it because I like it and I want to see it grow on places like Spell Table and some other places. Are we at a point where we're actively discussing with Wizards of the Coast these Precon decks, for example? So while we would love Hasbro, including my mother, by the way, who asks me all the time, has Hasbro picked this up yet? And the answer is no, with an asterisk. Like, it's a long and complicated process. We have one or more NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, and memoranda of understanding with various distributors and for-profit companies. So we try to balance this nonprofit charity-ness of what we do with the potential of cultivating a format and distributing it, which we think is like, we believe in it, we love it, so we want other people to love it. But we need to strike that balance between what a nonprofit can and should do with what a large multi-billion dollar industry does. And so we're trying to not only follow tax law, but also give a format a potential for growth, because let's face it, not many people have the opportunity to potentially grow a format, and that's something we don't take lightly.
Right, and we've seen what's happened with other formats. As my cat hops in
Yeah.
the background there. Hi, Lucy.
Familiar sight, yeah.
Yeah, you have pets. It happens. What
Yep.
do you do? But I mean, you see what happened to formats like Tiny Leaders, which was a flash in the pan that now people remember almost as a meme, as a joke. You know, like, right. Oh, it's another new format. Is this going to become the next Tiny Leaders? So right. I understand how you have to be very, very careful on some of your decisions on how do you nurture and grow a growing format such as Oathbreaker. But you mentioned a moment ago preconstructed decks, and I've seen on Twitter you guys have been tweeting out these pre-made, preconstructed, open and go kind of right out of the box decks.
Right.
And I understand that they relate a little bit to the nonprofit work you guys do as well.
Yeah, they do. So we wanted to come up with a product, rather than try to negotiate with large companies about what a good idea it is to take a risk on something that's relative unknown for a large industry partner, right? We decided, listen, why don't we hand collate? We'll just get a bunch of volunteers together around the new year, give them pizza and pop, soda, where you are probably, and
Soda pop.
right, soda pop, and put these decks together, and try to. The thing about it is, it's not been done a lot before. Sure, you see secondary sellers of things all the time. There are rookie decks and battle decks out there, but we wanted something that looked great but felt exactly the way we wanted it to, and we also wanted to give them away because not only is it, I don't know that it's appropriate to go wide on products for sale as a nonprofit. So we kind of split hairs a little bit and said, what if we gave them away for a certain level of donation? Why don't we just give the set away? That way people can have a battle box of Oathbreaker, and it takes away a lot of the barriers. It's inexpensive. Like, we challenged the rules committee, listen, make a deck for around 20 bucks, and we'll ship out 4 of them, and maybe we just break even this time. Like, trust me, we're not raising a ton of money. We're spending resources to make this. We're spending volunteer time, thank goodness, to make these. So it's really about just being good stewards of a format that we believe in. Maybe not have a charity take a loss, and still accomplish the goals of people learning and having fun through Oathbreaker. So you've probably seen these prototypes on Twitter and whatnot. So they're professionally designed by Decker Designs.
They look nice.
And they do look nice. And of course, we updated the proof of concept illustration to reflect the fan content, black box disclaimer on the back that says, listen, we're not using mana symbols. We're not using art from one of the Magic artists. We're simply developing something that we would want at our kitchen table, particularly if somebody joins us for lunch. We can say, hey, you got 4 choices. We got Gideon, we have Jace, we have Chandra, and then we have Nissa, and we can tell people briefly what each color is and does, even if they've never really played Magic or maybe even just seen it played. We can say, white's kind of like this. We have a bunch of soldiers and they just kind of make each other bigger and they go in for the kill. And blue is mental magic and it does a lot of, card drawing and gets rid of other people's libraries. And red is a bunch of sparky elementals that kind of shock you. And then green is Nissa. So she's really interested in lands coming down to create big splashy effects. So I think we did it right when you can fit Urza's Mine, Urza's Tower, and Urza's Power Plant in a casual green and black deck for about 20 bucks, but people still get to play with the power of Tron. So, thinking about the original Gatewatch was important to us because we got the name Oathbreaker from the Oath of the Gatewatch, and this alternate universe where they're kind of turning on each other, which has more or less happened in the story as well.
Now, what can people, you've kind of touched on a little bit, seeing Tron's like in one of the decks, but somebody opens one of these up. What can they expect? I mean, there's a Planeswalker, and the Planeswalker has their signature spell.
Right.
But what are some of the other things that supporters who do grab these pre-constructed decks can expect to see?
I think it's great. We thought a lot about what are these and who is this for? And we had some heated discussion. This was not all sunshine and roses. I think we felt what the stakes were. Is this going to be a make or break for the format where people open it and have fun, or they open it and they don't have fun, right? So fun and balance were key precepts that we had. Budget was, of course, a precept because we didn't want people spending a lot of money, and we couldn't spend a lot of money as a nonprofit to make $150 decks and then and then send those out for a $500 donation or something. We really thought about those key precepts, and so really who this for is for somebody who's vaguely aware of Oathbreaker, or maybe even played a game or two or tried it at Vegas, and really wants to just take the next step, but doesn't necessarily want to commit the time and resources to sort of think about it, then build it online. And there seems to be a more a rumination type of phenomenon now going on in Magic because of the aftershocks of the pandemic. People are like, well, I'll be spending more time at home, so I spend a few more moments kind of thinking about what kind of deck I want to make, and then make it, or take an idea I found and then upgrade it. So we wanted these starter decks to have sort of key pieces that make either just having it, sharing it, and upgrading it super available. So we'll be coming out with articles in the coming weeks, or even tweets that just say, like, here's a $10 upgrade for that deck. Here's a $20 upgrade for that deck. If you want to make it a little more sharp and pointy, awesome. Like, all about it. If you want to upgrade the planeswalkers and it's doing it for you for whatever reason, like you don't know why that Jace is in there, you think there's a better Jace for the money, like, great. But I also will tell you that a turn 2 Heart of Kieran and a turn 3 Jace is just fine. And you've got a Heart of Kieran online on turn 3 that you can attack and block with Vigilance like a Sarah Angel. That's absolutely fantastic.
I've been on the receiving end of that, and whether or not it's fun depends on which side of that thing you're on.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're the blue player, you're in the Catbird seat. Now, you're going to draw Heart of Kieran in your opening 7 every time? Of course not. It takes a little bit of thinking and experience, just like any other deck, to realize, like, do I go for the mill strategy here or just the beat down in the air? For Gideon, do I put Gideon out or do I just keep building my army? For Chandra, do I just go for the negative, like bring her out, like force a turn 5, turn 6 Chandra, wipe the board first with her ultimate, as it were, and then create elementals? Or do I want to, a battle of attrition, put out the elementals right away and force the issue? So, and then as far as Nissa goes, yeah, you're perfectly fine without casting your Oathbreaker, although I think an Oathbreaker that grows with landfall is the bee's knees, and you can get 1 or 2 counters on her, in your sleep per turn. And then, things just get unmanageable after that when Terrastodons are coming in no time, and your opponent's playing Nissa and they have Tron. You're like, well, they have 15 mana at the disposal. I think I'm just dead. So it's really been fun. We've tested this in 3-player, 4-player, occasionally even heads up. Like, there is a subset of Oathbreaker players who really like that heads up play, including my 16-year-old son, who's just like wants to just after dinner, just like 20 minutes of just battle royale, and then he's out. He just wants to play that one game and just kind of get in a game. So we've had a ton of fun. So at the end of the day, this is kind of a selfish product. This is just something we wanted at our booth. This is something we wanted in our classrooms, and this is just something that we like to play at home.
Now, how can someone grab these decks, support the cause? How does that work?
I'm glad you asked. So the first 200 decks we're just shipping in the USA, since we haven't finalized our international shipping situation yet. So for people in the United States, they can go to magickids.org and go to donate. And when they donate $100 or more, they get the decks shipped to them in January. And in the notes, if it makes you feel better, you can put Oath 22. Although I have a feeling anybody who donates exactly $100, we know exactly what they want. But we'll always verify with people if it's ambiguous. So again, it's magickids.org donate, the donate button or /donate, and that'll get you there. There's also a little reminder out there that says it doesn't start until December 20th at 9 a.m. Central Time. So any donations before that, you risk maybe missing out on decks. We're going to do our best that doesn't happen. But really, we'd like people to honor the opening bell of December 20th at 9 a.m. And then we expect they'll sell out on December 20th. So we don't suggest people wait. We've had a lot of feedback and kind of fending off the decks with a broom handle for now. We are sourcing cards. These are real Magic the Gathering cards. They're not proxies, and they're hand collated by volunteers, and they'll be shipping out in January.
All right. Well, speaking of January, which takes place in 2022, let's just take a second. Let's look ahead to 2022. What do you see for the format next year?
Yeah. Frankly, we've had such a blast curating and collating these deck pieces that we'll probably do it again. So spoiler alert, will probably collate to demand, but only the first 200 are going to be in the box that I showed earlier. These reddish orange Oathbreaker alphas, as they were, as it were, will probably have to come out with a second edition, a second, I hesitate to say printing, second printing of the boxes, I suppose. The boxes will probably look a little different. You'll see on the bottom of each box here, we kind of have a way for people to, the person building your deck will actually sign it and number it. So they'll be numbered to 200. And then I don't know that I have it with me, but each Planeswalker and signature spell is actually etched. So we have a proprietary process by which there's a gold O that's etched on each Planeswalker and each signature spell for the first 200 that get in under the wire on December 20th. And so that's super exciting. We can't divulge how we do it, but let's just say my spouse is a professional designer, Suzanne, and she has the ability to actually help us get these cards etched in with a golden foil. So that's pretty cool.
All right. Now, I can't remember, of course, Wizard of the Coast has their own app, the companion app, where you can track live run events. Is Oathbreaker on the companion app?
I'm not certain. We checked earlier and it doesn't appear so, although there, as we found out, many Oathbreaker fans just use workarounds, and so we'll fire like a standard type event for pairings and things like that. So we hope the companion app is adequate for people running casual events. Oathbreaker events, by the way, fire in pods of 4, much like a Commander event. So at Command Fests if people remember Command Fest from a couple of years ago in Chicago, DC, and Seattle, they use a Commander pod format, just like we hope on-demand events will fire in 2022. We're simply physically pushed out of that situation in Vegas. So we actually ran Oathbreaker in our area because the on-demand events were actually spilling out into conference rooms in Vegas. So that's why we kind of housed the Oathbreaker pods. But that's kind of our little niche anyway. Like we're perfectly happy to run casual Oathbreaker and just give people playmats if they win.
All right. Well, Jason, sounds like Oathbreaker has a lot of growth ahead of it. Those pre-constructed decks. Hope it does really well for the charity. I hope the players really like them, and I guess we'll see what happens with Oathbreaker over the course of the next 12 months, and hopefully beyond that.
Absolutely, it's an exciting time to be part of it.
All right, Jason Egginton, one of the founders of the Oathbreaker format. Thank you very much for joining us here on Magic Untapped.
Thanks, Barry. Appreciate it.